Hey, this is Gary, and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to go over bitmap fonts. We're going to go over labels and buttons in LibGDX. So first, we're going to start with the bitmap font. The first thing you'll need to know is how to make a bitmap font. And so you can download various bitmap font generators. So this is one that I've downloaded. It's just called Bitmap Font Generator. And from here, you can do your options, you can do your font settings, and it'll allow you to select any of your fonts that you have installed on your computer. So you can see I have a lot installed. So you select your font, you give it a pixel size, you want font smoothing, and you want clear type, and then you can then save your bitmap font, just give it a name. And so that's there. It'll generate this FNT file. And this is what the FNT file looks like. And it's all the settings. And that's for rendering that font so that the letters display correctly next to each other. And then the PNG file, it's a transparent file. So your fonts are in white. And then the dark gray is all transparent in this case. Then you just add your fonts to your asset folder, both the PNG and the FNT file. Then in your code, you'll specify your font file name. So I got Arial 10. This is a 10-point font. I generated a message, and so this is a really long message. It goes for quite a ways. And then you do your font, create a new bitmap font, and you just pass in that font file. And to render it, just get your font, call the draw method, give it the sprite batch, put your message and the location that you want it to be in. And then when you run it, it'll have your font down here. So this is only 10 pixels, so it's really small. You can see it'll display all the way across the screen, and it'll display from the top left corner. So your X and Y location that you pass in is the top left corner. So if I set the Y location to 0, it will not render on the screen because 0 is the bottom corner here, and so it's all rendering just down here. So I raise that up to 10 pixels. Now I'll render right across the bottom. And you can see it has spacing for the characters that go below the baseline. LibGDX also has a glyph layout, and that allows you to set the color and add additional alignment to that. Now the bitmap font object itself also has alignment. I'll get into that in a moment. So here I've got my glyph layout with my font. I'll use a different font, show you how those render. Give it my message, and it's going to be colored blue. And I'm setting the target width to 0. The alignment's left, and the wrapping is false. And so when your wrapping is false, it doesn't matter what value you put in for your target width. It will be ignored. It'll just render straight across the screen. And so I'll demonstrate that here. So now I'm doing my font.draw, doing my batch, and I have my GIF layout, and then I got its location here. And so there it is. Even though my width is 0, it's still just displaying all the way across the screen. So now if I set my wrapping to true, give it a width of 300, and then I'm going to render that at 200 pixels up, and it will wrap and it will left align that. So there you can see. And the other constructor will take your font, your message, a starting character. So this will take off the first 4 characters, and it will render the next 20 characters. Makes the color blue. The width is 300. The alignment's left, and we're setting that to true. And we're going to have a truncation character of an empty string. And so when you render that, so you can see it took off the first 4 characters, and then it just plays out for the width at 300, and then there's a truncation character of an empty string. And so now I've got a different font. This is the buffed font, and do color of coral, do 300 pixels across, left align, and wrap that, and we're going to render that out. And so you can see that's left align, and then I can change that. I'll make it right align. I render that, now it lines up on the right side. And here I have it now centered. I rendered that, and now it's going to center it. So you have spacings on both sides. So we're going back to our original font. And so as it demonstrated, even though you set a width, if you set your wrapping to be false, when it renders that, it'll just render a straight text going all the way across. So it ignores that font width. And then just by setting it to true, that'll make it wrap, and it'll pay attention to that font width. And this will be right aligned. So now I'm doing it with just the font. Render that. Now it's all right aligned. And this does the centering. So when I render that, it's going to be all centered. Now the alignment has other alignments. So it has a bottom, bottom left, bottom right, a top, top left, and top right. And then when you use bottom, it'll right align it. And if you do bottom left, it'll left align it. Bottom right, it will also right align it. And so I'll demonstrate that really quick. This is bottom, so it's left aligned. This is bottom left. That is left aligned. And this is bottom right, and so he'll be right aligned. This is top, and so it actually rights align it. So it's not the opposite of bottom, it's still rights align it. Top left will left align it though. And so there's that. Top right will right align it. And now this method takes the start and end characters, and you could wrap it. And you can also, the other one is start and end that has this truncated text on it. So this is it, just the start and end characters. And I do have it to wrap. And so it will display that number of characters. So it doesn't have the Babylon in front of it, it just starts with 5, and then it'll cut off there at the end of the 135. This one, now I've just added this string to be placed at the end, and it's still left aligned and still wrapping. And so that renders like this. It actually only makes it one line. And so it just kind of ignores that end. It only obeys the font width of 300. So you can actually make like a little marquee with that. And so what I've done here is I have an update variable that I keep track of, and every 0.2 seconds, it will increase the characters, the start and the end. And then I'm just going to truncate it with an empty string. And so it'll basically go through the entire message character by character like this. And so it's like a marquee effect. So I created a font util class, and this is all the IDs for the Latin characters, including the ASCII special characters. And so I have the code now generating a char array that I turn into a string that has all those characters in it. And then we will render that to the screen here. We're going to align it to the left. And if I use this aerial block, this is actually a full set of all of those characters. And so here they are, the special punctuation characters, the numbers, more punctuations, the standard characters, uppercase and lowercase, square brackets, curly brackets, some currency characters, copyright register, additional characters, fractions, Latin characters. Then I'll get into Greek characters, and then I'll give you some of these more kind of Russian characters, some dashes, quotes, single quote, double quotes, cross, double cross. It also has the pipes, the double pipes, and the solid blocks, arrows, and some other special characters, smiley faces, male, female characters, card characters, some notes. So that's the full set of characters on a standard font that you would get, the Latin extended. So if you try to change the color of the batch, setting the color to like a green color, any other color, and then change it back like you would an image, it actually doesn't change the color of this font. And so now that when I run it, even though it sets it to forest color, that green, it still renders it a white. So if you actually want to change the color of your font, you're going to have to use the glyph layout and set the color there. So what you can do to set the color on a font, the font has a set color method in it. So I can set that to forest green and then draw my font. And that makes it that green color. So to create a translucency effect, partially transparent, you would define the color and set the alpha channel. So here I have it as fully opaque. So you can see what it looks like fully opaque, right? And so that's very vibrant purple there. And then changing the alpha channel to a half. So now it's only half opaque, translucent. And so you see that bright color is now dimmer. And the glyph layout will also do translucency as well by passing in a color with that alpha channel set to a value less than 1. And so there it is, being partially translucent. And so that's the bitmap font object and the glyph layout and how those work. Now I'm going to go over LibGDX's their labels and their buttons. And so a label requires a label style or a skin. So skins you can find online, different types of skins defined. And with a skin you can take a style name, a font name, a color, font name, and a color. So here I just have a label, got my text, and I have my label style. My label style, I am getting my Battlestar font again. Label style, I set my font, and then I'm setting the font color. You can also set these with the constructor, label style, my font, and the color. So now that just displays it there and the location 00. And so with the labels, you can set their size, a width, and a height. And so I'm calculating a height based off of the screen height. So if I run that, it's going to appear higher up into the screen. And then I can do alignment as well. So this will center align it. And so when it renders, it will render at that top, but will be center aligned. So I'm going to add another label. So this is 1A, and I have it giving a title again, and then the same label style as the previous one. I'm going to set its size based on the width and the row height. I'm going to set its position on 0 and height, and the row height I'm ×2, so it's going to be kind of the next row down. And then I'll center align that as well. And then my draw method, I'm going to make it partially transparent. There it is. That's the top row. This is the second one. And I'm going to add a third one. So this is going to be in that third row down. Also centering that one. And we'll set its translucency a little bit even more. So there's the third title. So that one's also centered. Now, if I change the width to be half of the screen's width, then it's going to actually be on this half of the screen, and it's centered on that half. So the label's overall width is used to determine how to align it. And this is a skin here. It's called Glassy UI. Has an atlas, has a JSON file, and has a PNG image file. And so the atlas defines the various elements that can be found in that PNG file. And the JSON UI tells which file to use and which big file font to use. So it defines the font and what each piece of that font should be. So it's very similar to using like cascading style sheets. And this is the PNG for it. So it has these various elements, and it also includes its font with it and buttons as well. So I define a skin, and I just do a new skin, and that takes the JSON file for that skin. So it'll take either the file, the texture atlas, the file, and a texture atlas, both. So you create your label, doing a new label, and you pass in the my skin, and then we give it a style name. We call it black, and then you call the labels draw method, pass in that sprite batch and its translucency, or the alpha channel. And let's just print it right there at the bottom. And that skin also has a big black option, and so this style name is pulled from that file. And so here's that style, big black. It says the font to use and the font color to use. And then I set its size just like I did the other label, and setting its position as well. And so that's printing it here. And so if I make that text really long, right, like that, I can set the label to wrap as well, drawing that as before. So this is a label where the text is going to wrap, and there you can see it's wrapping. Now I'm going to move on to buttons, and to use the buttons, I'm going to use the LibGDX stage object, and basically just create that with a viewport, and then you want to set the input processor to the stage object so that I can read your updates, mouse clicks, and mouse movements and all that. I'm going to add the new method that it's going to have all the elements that I'm going to add for the stage, and then I'm going to update my render to do the stage.act and then a stage.draw, and clear the screen so that will render out. So I'm going to create a label with some text using that Battlestar font. It'll be my output label, and so that will react to input from buttons. Now, LibGDX buttons and additional components are very reliant on the stage object for the way that it handles button clicks and mouse movements. So for my button, I'm going to make a text button, and I'm going to set the skin, and I'm going to use the small size, and I'm going to set my size based on the third of the width and just one row height and height. Set its location, and I'm going to add an input listener, and this is LibGDX input listener for 2D scenes. And I'm going to override the touch up and the touch down. So when you release the button, it'll say press the button, and when you click on the button, it'll print button pressed. And then I add that input listener to the button, and then the button I add it as an actor. So while the button is a component, it's also an actor in the LibGDX framework. And right here's my text button. That's my output label. I click on it. It says button pressed, release, and it says press the button. And so the skin does the button effect, And if I click outside the button, it doesn't do anything. And this is the image button, and so it does not have any text with it. So I'm using that same skin. Add my input listener to that, and I set the position for it. I'll show you the default image button. So this one happens to be very large. Click on it and release. And if I try changing the size, and so I'm just doing whatever the width is divided by 4 and my row height. When I run that, it actually renders it differently, incorrectly. So it's not set up to be that small of a text, or that it's not set up to be that small of an image. Okay, and now I'm going to show the checkbox, and so you can put some text with it, add that skin again, so it's going to use the images from that skin, set its location, and I'm going to add a change listener, and so it'll report whether or not that checkbox is checked or not checked. Add the change listener to the checkbox, and then add the checkbox to the stage as an actor. So here's the checkbox. Click it. It says now the check is on. Unclick it, turns it off. And you have to click on either the text or the actual button. So LibGDX also has a slider, and you could set its minimum value. Here I have it at 0. Its maximum value of 10, and then the slider ticks. I've set that to 1. That'll be the step size, and whether or not I want it vertical, and apply that skin as well. And I set its position. Then the slider, add the slider listener. He has a change listener, and that will report the value that the slider is set on. And then add that as an actor to the scene again. So here's the slider, and I can slide that across, and it increments and decrements as I move the slider. Now LibGDX also has a text field, and so I've added some text here, set its position, and add it as an actor to our stage. And that shows up here. So that's my text, and you can see I can click on it, navigate across the text, and delete data, type in data, so I can type into that text field. So I can set the text field size. So I've got the row height, I made a width of 300, so it will render that text field longer. And the last element that I'm going to show is the TextArea. And so I'm using that skin again, put some sample text in there, and I'm going to give it a size of 400 by 300. Now this position is the bottom left corner, so you need to be wary of that. And then when you run it, set it low enough, it'll print down here. It'll go up. And then you can type into this text field, and you can see that it will wrap based on the word size. You can hit the enter key and add what other text that you want. So those are the components in LibGDX. There are a few others that you can find online that are available. But these are a lot of the major ones that we would probably end up using in any type of game that we make. And that's going to do it for this video. So please leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And feel free to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.